bitch.
Horror, kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello there, collectors. It is Steven here, and happy release of Tag Part 2. Ancient Gods Part 2. Today we're going to be taking a look at McFarlane's Doomicorn. That's going to be the Doom Slayer. Dressed up as a unicorn, or would it technically be an alicorn? Who cares? It's Doom. Now, if you had Twitch Prime back when the game launched, then you were able to get this for free. However, you can't get it now, so maybe they should do a second run? Yeah. Anyway, this is a very popular design in the Doom fandom because it is infamous, and quite frankly, I don't know how else I would want to go through my brawler mode run in the Ancient Gods with my full auto shotgun and microwave beam than dressed up as a unicorn. So let's stop the chit chat and take a look to see whether or not Doom Guy here is worth adding into your collection. This is essentially a repaint of the normal release for the Doom Slayer, and it's gonna be white with some pink, almost purple paint applications. There's going to be some slight changes to the sculpt to accommodate for the unicorn parts, the hood, and then the attachment points for the wings and the tail. But other than that, the sculpt is going to be the same. Now, for the paint application, I think they actually did a rather solid job, except for matching the white for the unicorn hood and the white used on the actual suit in and of itself. And when we take a look at the side-by-side comparison with the original Doom Slayer release, then you'll notice that the actual skin tone doesn't match. This one is actually a little bit lighter. It seems like they cast this one in his flesh tone plastic, and then they painted everything else. And the other one, they didn't cast him in his flesh tone, and they painted that. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, taking a look at the actual quality, for the sculpted details, it kind of is lost a little bit just simply because everything is either white or hot pink, essentially, for this release. Now, that's not to say that the sculpt is bad. The sculpt actually does look very nice. And one of the unique things that they did was utilize a black wash to accentuate those details. So, if you're really paying a close attention to this figure, and you're not just taking a quick glance at it, you can appreciate those finer details. And the new additions, such as the wings, and even swapping out the Doom Blade for a magical wand, you can actually see care was crafted into those new parts. So it's not just a simple repaint. So for that, McFarlane did a rather nice job, though I will argue we should get a 2.0 because of what's coming up here. Doomicorn's articulation is going to be the same as the original release, so that's to say, not very good. Okay, so the head plugs into the neck on a ball joint, and we do have a barbell style or double axis, as some like to say, though I will say that the ball joint that plugs into the head in and of itself is rather tight, and I do feel like whenever I move the head and turn it around from side to side, I kind of feel like I'm twisting the plastic, though that doesn't really seem to be the case because we do have that ball joint that sits into the body at the shoulder there, and that does most of the heavy lifting. So thankfully, I'm able to get around any issues with twisting plastic. I just don't really seem to get much use out of the ball joint that goes into the head. Now we have the Predator cannon here, and that is going to plug into the shoulder here on a ball joint, so we can move that at the base. And then we do have a swivel here at this connection point, so we can move it forward and back. And then we do have the frag grenade, ice bomb, and flame belch, all nice in one, connected on a ball joint. The equipment launcher, very fun. So we can get that to aim, or we can fold it up if we would like in some way. Though do take note the wings, which are back here, will get in the way. Now, the wings can be popped off, but I mean, this is Doomicorn. So, or Doomalicorn? I don't know. Anyway, continuing on with the articulation, the shoulder pads are on ball joints, as you can see here. Once again, like the neck joint, barbell style, so they are going to plug into the shoulder, and then there's going to be a ball joint in the shoulder peg, so we do get some movement there. And then the shoulders, they're not that great. We do have swivel and hinges on there, so here's the hinge. So we can get a T-pose out of Doom guy here, and then moving them back into a somewhat neutral position. Here's how they swivel up. And as you can see, they kind of swivel up in sort of like a V cut. So, yeah. Moving the shoulder pads out of the way. You can see just based on the sculpt, which in the current era, you'd think that they'd be able to get around that, but I guess not. Now, the shoulders are going to plug into the arm on a peg, so we will get a bit of a bicep swivel there. So that is, there. Once again, because of the sculpt, you can see there's a little bit of a lip there on the bicep sculpt. That is going to collide in with the body. That shoulder pad likes to pop off on mine. Don't know why. There we go. So that little bit of the sculpt is going to collide in with the body. So we don't really get a huge use out of that. We have a single elbow hinge, which would be fine if it had a swivel attached to it, but it does not have any swivel at all. Now for the wrists, they are going to be on swivel hinge combos, and what I would recommend first is heating up Doom Guy, and then you will be able to remove the hands. Now why am I recommending that? If you do that, you can push the hands back on, but not all the way, revealing the joint, and you can get a better range of movement. You notice that on this hand here. So you're not breaking it, you're just giving it a better range of movement, and it'll help with holding accessories, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so we do have an ab crunch, which is a ball joint, so we can twist and turn him from side to side, rock him forward and back, and we do have good range of movement there. If you go too far back, though, you'll notice that there is a cutoff for the paint application. Why they did that, don't know. They could have just kept it going, but it is what it is. We do have a waist ball joint, as you can see here. The tail is going to plug in on a swivel, so you can spin that around. Hips, as you can see, we have ball jointed hips. So Doom Guy is going to kick forward about that far, back about that far. Legs are going to go split out about that far. And as you can see, that ball joint plugs in on a swivel, it kind of looks like, but realistically speaking, because of the design, that's about the range of the swivel you're going to get. Single knee hinges, but those do plug in on a swivel as well. We can spin the lower portion of the leg around and get it stuck. There we go. Get it unstuck. Now for the ankles. We do have swivels and hinges. So we have a peg that plugs into the portion of the leg, a peg that plugs into the foot, and then a hinge. So the hinge contributes to rocking it forward and back, and then swivel, turning it to the side, and then ankle rocker. What I would sort of advise is to spin the foot around and get ankle rocker movement from side to side, kind of like that. I did that with my normal Doom Guy, and it works much better. So, yeah, the articulation is relatively disappointing, considering that this is the one referenced to take on the Dark Lord, Satan himself, and just out of the basic point of there not being a swivel at the elbow, the arguably less popular Marauder has better articulation and smoother articulation. Yeah, so that is rather disappointing there. For accessories, Doom Guy is going to come with his Doom Wand. Cool. He's going to come with the Super Shotgun, which we already took a look at both of those. He is going to come with a circular base that has Doom on it with a peg that is going to plug into the bottom of either foot. And that will help to balance him because depending on how you display him, he's not going to be able to stand. Again, depending on how you display him. So that does come in handy. And you can remove the wings and the tail, which I believe were not attached in package. It's been a while since I opened them up. So you can display him without those, and that's kind of what he looks like. If they were able to remove the unicorn hood, then we would just kind of have, I guess, just a white and pink Doom guy. Or Doomslayer. Much like the first release as well. If you pose his hand just right, and you really push the shotgun in there, he'll hold it. But sometimes you don't get it just right and it falls out. So for accessories, I think it's fine. I mean, at this point, though, considering they pretty much reused everything, we should have well, you could put the wings on upside down. Maybe we could have gotten a crucible. I think that would have been really cool for this release. Or fists. Or maybe just held off and done a 2.0. But still, for the price point, for the articulation, we definitely could have gotten an improvement. But for the accessories, I think it's just fine. Now let's move on over to a size comparison so you can see how big the Doomicorn is. And quite frankly, this is going to be a big figure. If you know, with the original comparison I did with the Marauder and the Doomslayer, didn't do it that time, you'll know that it's actually bigger than the Marauder, which is a little disappointing, but c'est la vie. Doom guy on your shelf is going to be bigger than a lot of the other figures you're going to have. Now, like I mentioned before, here's a side-by-side comparison with the original release. If you don't have it, then, well, this will be a just fine substitute. Oops, I'm spoiling the end of the review. So yeah, overall, you can definitely see where the paint application changes are at, and then maybe appreciate some of the newly sculpted details, specifically for those unicorn parts. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. An MSRP of 20 or so bucks, yeah, this is not so bad. The articulation, though, it is. I'm going to hammer that home pretty much every time I talk about this figure. It really is disappointing that the Marauder figure that McFarlane made, the enemy to one of the most iconic characters in video game history, which more people will buy the iconic character than they will an enemy who is memed by video game journalists. You're going to go after him with the chain gun. Why? That was figure of the year material for me last year, quite frankly. I'm going to be honest. But here, not quite with the articulation. So McFarlane, get to a renewal already. Otherwise, for 20 bucks, I do think you are getting your money's worth. All right. That's the review. Fuck off.